This is the most extreme Jeep Wrangler, I would say, ever, because this is the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon X, and this model has all the off-road goodies and really the whole kitchen sink thrown at it. In today's video, Case and I are going to take you all around this Jeep Wrangler. We're going to get it out on the road and find out if it's worth the crazy price tag.
But Tommy, first things first, on the exterior, what do you think of this color?
This is awesome. So this is a color called Mojito, and what's kind of cool about this Rubicon X is you're going to notice everything is this bright green. So even the fender flares and the hardtop are all body colored. Now, Case, what do you think of that look on a Wrangler? Do you think it's a cool look? Do you think it's a little too road going?
I'd say it looks pretty premium. I don't think it's too road going because we've still got a lot of black on the bumper and on the edges of the fender flares. We've got some rocker protection here. So things look rugged, especially with these big 35-inch BFGs.
Yeah, so this Rubicon X package includes these BFG All-Terrains. Now this is interesting, this is actually a KO2, and I would love to see Jeep move to the KO3. That's kind of becoming the new industry standard. But these are 315/70 tires, and they're wrapped around a 17-inch wheel. So this is really a package intended more for hardcore off-road use than looking cool on the street.
Here's the other thing that I love, the Warn winch that we have up front built into the bumper, which is really nice because we just bought a Bronco Everglades, which we're very excited about because it's got a lot of capability and a lot of cool features, including a winch on that one, but that one sticks way out from the bumper. So the first time that we took it off-road, we drove it kind of lightly, but right into a rock.
Yeah, that winch did crash into a bit of a ledge, but you're exactly right. So this has got the steel front bumper, and it's nice how kind of integrated this winch is into the front end. And they also put a pretty high quality unit on there. So that's a 10S by Warn, which means it's a 10,000 pound winch, and it's fully synthetic. And I also like the way they integrate the hook into the front here with this little kind of dowel to keep everything in position.
Yeah, it keeps things nice and neat, and I like how much access you have to the winch and where you plug in your controller and everything. Looks like this one's been off-road before.
Yeah, so pretty cool. Someone here in Michigan's been wheeling this thing. Now, I say that this is the most extreme Wrangler ever. I'm sure Case is going to take a little bit of a problem with that because it is just a 3.6, and yeah. I know Case is a big 392 fan.
That's true, I am a big 392 guy.
Holy moly!
Very nice. So yeah, this is of course the classic, the iconic 3.6 liter Pentastar V6, 285 horsepower, 260 pound-feet of torque, and an 8-speed automatic transmission.
Yeah. So
nothing super revolutionary there, but plenty enough to get you around, especially on the trail. You don't need the crazy horsepower of the 392. Although, Tommy, I do like it.
Yeah, it was a cool option. It's no longer around, so now you can get the Wrangler only in a few powertrains, the 3.6 V6, the 2-liter turbo, or the 4xe plug-in hybrid 2-liter turbo. But look, this Jeep, from an off-road standpoint, has pretty much the whole enchilada. It even has 488 gears in this model, so up from the 410s, which is what you kind of want, especially when you go up from like a 33 to 35-inch tall tire. We also have the Mopar Jeep Performance part spare tire brace here, so you don't sag your tailgate after a lot of opening and closings of your tailgate. And then of course, pretty standard Wrangler stuff back here. It's got the integrated roll bar, of course. This one's got the trail recovery kit, which is the biggest waste of money in my opinion, because it's a lot of money for just a couple of straps. And then of course, you know, full seats fold down. It's got the full leather interior, which I'll show you in a sec. And then my favorite part about new Wranglers is the little data plate there.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very old school. We see that on a lot of the old military vehicles that we have for fun that we like to play around with. So our old Army Jeep has plaques just like that. Even the new Deuce and a Half that we just bought has a bunch of plaques like that.
Well, let's hop on inside. We'll show you the interior, and then we're going to take this thing for a spin. Now, Case, show kind of the big change for the updated Wrangler is over there. Oh, look at that. Finally got power seats.
Which is kind of a big deal. It's only pretty nice.
Took them 1987 to 2025 to put power seats in the Wrangler, 2024. But look, the seats on this Rubicon X are going to be the full leather upholstery with the red stitching. And even though they're power, I do have to say, they are still remarkably uncomfortable. So Jeep has got to put more effort into making their seats shaped like something for a human, because as it sits, they're just flat on flat with really mild bolstering. And after, even in my opinion, an hour and a half in these bad boys, I'm ready to get out of them.
Yeah.
So they're not super comfortable. And one nice thing about these seats is you do get lumbar on both the driver and the passenger side, which is good.
Yeah, which is good. And there's a lot of nice materials here. I like this textured material that's on the dash with a little bit of red stitching. We've got some nice leather there on the door card. There's still some plasticky material, although this is slightly soft touch, which is kind of nice because you're probably going to rest your arm on that quite a bit.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that from an interior build standpoint, this is still significantly better than the Bronco. I really like how they do the stitching across the dash and then across this grab handle. Looks very, very nice. The quality of the material on the steering wheel is excellent. It feels incredibly high quality and just great to touch. And all the buttons have kind of a very satisfying little clunk. So from a build quality standpoint, I think that this beats the Ford, at least on the interior.
Another thing that of course makes this a Jeep, makes it very capable, is the fact that we've got, well, for one, yeah, our four-wheel drive selector. This one has a four-wheel drive auto mode, which is always a really nice option to have. But there we've got our sway bar disconnect, and we've got our lockers.
That's exactly right. Yep, you got them all down here. You got your auxiliary switches too, so if you want to wire up some lights up front, those are ready to go. I think that this is a great thing that Jeep needs to put, kind of, I would make it standard in Wranglers now, is the four-wheel drive auto, because it's really becoming easy to access this on the Ford products, and it's super nice in the winter not having to go between 2 high and 4 high all the time. So you just stick it in 4 high auto and let the computer figure out when to engage that front axle.
Yeah, especially where we live in Colorado, because a lot of times it will snow and then it will warm back up and you'll be back and forth between dry pavement and some snowy sections of parking lots. So having the four-wheel drive auto mode is pretty sweet.
Now this is going to be the most controversial part of the whole video, as it should be.
The tiny glove box?
The tiny glove box.
No.
So the pricing on this vehicle, so you can see Wrangler Rubicon started about $51,000, which is already a pretty expensive vehicle. But then when you come down here, beyond the Mojito Clear Coat, you're going to find the Rubicon X package, which is $12,950. So that includes the Napa leather seats, it includes the power seats, heated front seats, heated steering wheel, Alpine audio. It basically includes all of the luxury things, the full-time four-wheel drive, park sense, the off-road cameras, all of that. This also has the trailer tow and auxiliary switch group, the all-weather floor mats, the 8-speed automatic, by the way, with the 3.6. They basically charge you $5,000, $4,500 to get the V6 and the automatic. So they're really pushing people toward the 2-liter turbo these days. Then you get adaptive cruise with stop, 488, which is cool. Doors off, kit by Mopar, the Warn winch, and then the final price is nearly $80,000, $76,190.
Yeah, which is a lot of money for, in my mind, anything with a naturally aspirated V6.
Case is looking for 8 cylinders if he's paying 76 grand
Yeah,
for a
I'd say
vehicle.
so.
Yeah, and I think that, Casey, you are not in the minority there. But let's see what it drives like on the road and find out, how it compares to that new Bronco we just bought.
Yeah, I also love our big screen, of course, but the fact that it's not all screens, they've still given us analog gauges, which is still cool.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And look, I still think, I really do believe this, that the Uconnect system, especially with this new 12.3-inch display, is one of the best in the business. I love that you have these shortcuts across the left side of the screen. They're always there. They're easy to understand. You always have CarPlay accessible. It's quick, and it's just a responsive unit as a whole. Plus, it's got wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. So we're going to get that 8-speed into drive and take this thing for a ride. Now, this package that we're driving, this Extreme Recon package, or I should say Rubicon X package, is kind of a direct response to what Ford did with the Bronco. So Jeep had to go to factory 35s because Ford was doing factory 35s, right? And honestly, they need to go to factory 37s now because you can get that on the Raptor. Yeah. But out on the road, I'm going to leave this parking lot here. Certainly, this vehicle does drive pretty differently from the Ford. So it feels a lot more narrow. You can even just, the view out the hood is very different than the Bronco. You get that narrow hood, and even when you take into account the fenders, it feels a lot more nimble, kind of just cruising it around even this parking lot. It also just feels lighter and less kind of heavy-footed cruising around on these streets. But we are going to find that when you get it above 45, 50, 60, that's where that limitation of the solid front axle really comes into play.
Yeah, it doesn't steer as well on road. And to the Bronco's credit, the independent front suspension, hey look, it's Nick Miles.
Nick Miles!
The independent front suspension on the Bronco articulates really well off-road and does better on-road. But you brought up something that I like a lot. Not only how narrow this is, but the view out the front. And I want to say that the visibility out of the front, which matters a lot when you're on the trail, is better on this than on our Bronco, which has a much boxier hood that reduces your sight lines.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly on the money there, Case. And even the views out the side, and you got these big mirrors. It is great how simple and easy it is to see out of this thing as a whole. Now, when we look at like the roof and door configuration, this does have the Freedom panels, which do pull out. You got 2 in the front here, right? But the back portion, you got to pull off the whole hard top as kind of one big unit. And then I do think that, you know, an advantage from a door standpoint that the Ford has is when you pull off the doors, the mirrors stay with the car, right? Where on the Jeep, when you pull off the doors, you got to find a mirror solution. It's kind of a
like
small
an accessory
nitpick.
mirror.
Yeah, and it probably doesn't affect certainly everybody, but it would be cool to have them body integrated now.
Here is one thing that I was thinking about as we were pulling away from the parking lot. I've actually got a physical parking brake.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, and pretty unusual in this day and age.
Yeah, I really like the physical parking brake. And I think that, you know, Ford has really dialed in the Wrangler from a refinement is a bold statement, but from a fit and finish standpoint, I think that this is the best Wrangler that's ever existed. And, you know, like I'm noticing driving these consistently since 2018 that every one I get in just feels a little bit better made, right? And now we're at the point where you can buy a vehicle with 35-inch tall tires that doesn't squeak at all, right? Even with removable tops and doors, there's not a single rattle or a squeak or a noise that shouldn't be in here. So I think that Jeep, and I know I'm going to get comments on this because people love to hate on Wrangler reliability, but I really do think that this is going to be the most reliable Wrangler ever because this 3.6 V6 has been around forever.
Yeah, that's true. They've been making them for a long time. We've seen plenty of these engines with hundreds of thousands of miles that are still kicking. So as far as reliability is concerned, this V6 is not too bad. It's not the most exciting engine. It's definitely no 392. Which I don't want to keep harping on, but
look, it's fine. It accelerates down the road, and I do think that this is a big improvement over most Wranglers I've driven because it comes with 488 gears.
Yeah.
So the fact you can get kind of like a factory re-gear, pretty cool.
The other thing that's interesting to me is how much it feels like the Pentastar, and especially probably because of the 8-speed automatic, has changed over time. Because we had a JK Wrangler that had 35s, had steel bumpers, had a winch, had all of the accessories on it, and that was about the slowest vehicle on the planet. This does not feel that way.
No, this actually feels pretty spry. Like, you're not going to win any stoplight Grand Prix, but you're also not going to be worried about merging at 80 miles an hour. You're going to be able to do that pretty comfortably.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, like, look, this is a little bit of an absurd amount of money for a Wrangler, right? $76,000. But what you have to keep in mind is this is a vehicle you could buy like this and take on level 8 or 9 trails, or maybe if you're bold enough, like that level 10 trail, and never have to modify, right? You could buy this today, not put a single dollar in modification, and keep up with just about every trail rig that you're realistically going to find apart from a rock buggy on a trail, and then still have a full factory warranty, which is pretty cool.
You really cannot overstate how capable these are, as is the full-size Bronco with a Sasquatch package. But out of the box, unbelievable amount of capability. We have, as a company vehicle, a brand new, so the new generation of the 4Runner in its TRD off-road form. So it's not a TRD Pro or a Trail Hunter. It's not the most capable version of it. But this would absolutely, with rock crawling, run laps around our 4Runner.
Oh yeah.
And it would run laps around a Trail Hunter too.
And I still believe that if you are going for the most capable rock-oriented machine, this is better than the Bronco, because it does feel narrower, more nimble, and you get that solid front axle with the sway bar disconnect, which is just the best setup for strictly rock crawling, right?
Yeah.
And the compromise is on the road, like it's pretty jittery still. So you come across an expansion joint at 60, 65 miles an hour like we're doing now, and the whole Jeep kind of shudders and shakes a little bit, which you're not going to get with an independent front suspension. Like there. And it's not disconcerting, but you definitely notice, right, that the vehicle's more upset at speed over bumps than the Toyota or the Ford. Is it a deal breaker? No. I think it's fine. I don't think it's the end of the world like a lot of other media outlets will have you believe driving a Wrangler on the road. But it is not as sure-footed as the competition.
Yeah, if you want an SUV that steers like a 911, this is not it.
This is not it. Get a Macan. Exactly right. But look, ultimately, it's big money for this thing, but it's also the most capable Wrangler probably ever. And I know that the 392 is a cooler vehicle, but realistically, having a lighter front end is going to be more beneficial off-road.
Don't say things like that, Tom.
It's true.
Take it back.
It's true. So I do stand by that, and I'm actually hopefully going to be able to have some cool adventures in a vehicle like this coming up shortly, which I can't talk about
cool
yet.
bridge.
Yeah, dude, Detroit, man, it's got some cool stuff in it. But guys, let us know what you think about this new Rubicon X, our first time behind the wheel of 2025, in the comments below. And as always, it's been Tommy.
In case.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.